welcome back to another episode of the Better Not Perfect podcast. And I am your host, Dr. Shai Butler. I am an author of the book Better Not Perfect, From Hot Mess to Life Success, a woman's guide to learning, loving, and being herself unapologetically. And if you joined us on our last episode, you were able to meet the magnificent Dr. Odo Butler, my better half over here, aka Dr. Boo. We talked a little bit about the Power Couple podcast that we did together. So, Doctor, you want to say hey to the audience?
Hey, everyone out there. I'm happy to be back on the show again. And if I'm on again, I'm gonna have to send her a contract. But I'm really happy to be here and talk about the book, talk about the chapter that you wanted to talk about, and just kick it with you.
Yeah. We kick it a lot, and I think that's what makes our marriage successful.
Oh my gosh, is that a term people use anymore?
I don't know, but it's a term we're using on the Better Not Perfect podcast.
So hang out. I don't know what you use nowadays, but we're hanging out.
Whenever you're spending leisure time together. The most modern terminology may not be kicking it, but for the Butlers and for the Better Not Perfect community, we chopping it up and we're calling it kicking it.
I don't feel right saying chopping it up with the wife. but yeah.
All right. So you're taking me off script. So we're going to come back to it. So we're talking about chapter 6 today. And chapter 6 is called Love and Everest, Both Worth the Climb. And you all know, because you've been following along with the podcast, to know that every chapter of the book, I start with the lyrics of a song. So this one was the OJ's. And because the chapter is Love and Everest, Both Worth the Climb, I picked Stairway to Heaven. And it may be familiar to some of you. It's old school, like old school, but it's timeless in that it's really about love. And, the lyrics are, here we go, climbing the stairway to heaven. Here we go, walking the road of ecstasy, taking a load of the whole world off our shoulders. The door is wide open for you. The door is wide open for me.
I wish I could sing that song. I just did it. I broke right into it.
I know. I love the OJs. But, when we talk about, we set it up in chapter 5. We talked about the origin story of our love, the origin story of our relationship and how we met. The book goes into further detail, but we really took the time to just, touch upon a few points that we thought were important to share with the audience about, what to look for when you're out there dating and, thinking that you may want to launch into a serious relationship. We talked about the point that I had just come through and I was on this journey to better. I had pivoted and started to realize after a period of my life in which I was just way off track and drawing all types of negativity toward me, that I wasn't ready for my boo over here because I had all this stuff going on. But as I launched on my journey to better, then I became open to love. And that love ultimately transitioned into marriage. So in chapter 5, we talked about what that dating experience was like, and we shared a few things from there. But today, I guess, we keep it real when we talk. So feel free to keep it real with the audience today. We're talking about marriage, and we're talking about that, sometimes people think, let me reframe it. Sometimes I thought that, once I had this love in my life, everything would be perfect, and that, and I often tell brides who are planning weddings, spend less time planning the wedding and more time planning the marriage.
Yeah.
Because the wedding is a day, the marriage is a lifetime.
Yeah.
And you enter it really, really wanting it to work. Mm-hmm. You really do. But it's a climb, it's worth the climb, right?
And it can work. There's all these stats out there telling you how it can't work and how it will not work, but it can work. And I think that it takes some dedication. It takes some commitment from both people. and it takes some work and it takes some growth, and it, you have to be humble at times, and sometimes you have to be bold to be able to share how you feel or what your thoughts are, but don't let your feelings um,
Yeah.
take away from your love.
Yeah. And that, I'm glad you said that, because in chapter 6, one of the things I talk about when I define love, I say love is not an emotion. We get it wrong. We think
Yeah,
that if I feel a certain way, if my palms sweat and my heart beats and, I
yeah,
just have this butterflies in my stomach, that's love. And when that goes, it must mean I'm no longer in love. But that is not love at all. That can be a symptom of love, you know, but symptoms subside, and the real fact is love is a decision. It
yeah,
is not an emotion.
yeah.
And I mean, I still get butterflies, I
Me
do,
too.
I'm grateful for that. But butterflies come and butterflies go, because there are times in our marriage where we have had some challenges,
Hmm.
some real struggles, and and there were times where I didn't feel love, but I made a decision to not go with my feelings.
And I think we should qualify it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's some no-go zones, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, some people, it may be infidelity, it may be someone's trying to physically harm you, it may be there are some no-go zones, right, in life. So we're not suggesting that you're just like you don't see what's going on
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you're just this blind
You stay at
duty.
all
Yeah,
costs.
yeah, yeah. We're not
Right.
we're not suggesting that. We're not. But I think we believe
Mm-hmm.
that people let a lot of things come into their marriage that they don't have to, and I think it leads to regret. I think it leads to people throwing away a good thing when they don't have to.
Right. Right. So we often say, stick around till the love comes back, or stick around till the feelings of love come back. Don't
Mhm.
leave before the miracle happens.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and you know, I think that the attitude that we established in our marriage, because it's not, we, first of all, I encourage everyone to do premarital counseling. We
yes,
did.
yes,
I will also say that when you're dating, the issues you see in a person while you're dating are the issues that will persist. They do not go away because you said I do. The same
yeah.
issues I had when we met and we're dating, the
Same.
same issues. Less so because
Yeah,
I'm on a journey to better.
yeah,
And
yeah,
same with Boo over
yeah,
here
yeah,
with Odo. Same issues before we were married, carried into the marriage. And so, and they were sometimes conflict zones for us.
yeah.
We had different attitudes about money. We had
Hmm.
and finances that we had to sort of come into agreement on.
Yeah.
We had we had debates about things we didn't even understand that we would have debates around, like
Yeah.
educating our children. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
I came from private schools. Pay for education at all costs.
I, I came up in the public schools, and
Mm-hmm.
you had to earn your way into the separate track.
Yeah.
So,
So we had some real
yeah,
like rows about things that you wouldn't even thought to maybe capture in premarital counseling, but
yeah.
it's important to go to premarital counseling. It's so important to go because it's important to at least set some ground rules about how you're going to deal with conflict in relationships and with marriage.
It's funny because it's like when you get with someone and you say, we're going to go on a trip,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do something, let's go on a vacation together. You sort of have to agree on where you're going to go and how you're going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you even talk about what you're going to bring.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're talking about marriage, and you may even bring in an expert to tell you about the place
Mm-hmm.
and the different ways to get there. So marriage is a journey. It is
Yeah,
a journey,
it
and
is.
you already have baggage when you show up. You already have
Yep.
baggage, so you have to
Mm-hmm.
kind of work out.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, is your baggage going to work with this, and my
Mm-hmm.
baggage going to work with this on this journey that we're going on? And you're not alone. You bring all your family stuff, they bring their family stuff into the situation. And it's not a bad thing, but it's important
Mm-hmm.
to seek counseling. It's important to understand how to work together through it because there will be challenges.
Mm-hmm. And so, my audience knows, and so it's no secret to you, boo, because because you lived it. Um, in our dating relationship, we had a surprise.
Yeah,
So what were we about, like 4 months into
yeah, yeah,
to the dating relationship, and then we found out that, like you said in the last episode, you knocked me up,
yeah, yeah,
or I became with child. For those of you who have problems with the term knocked up,
yeah,
um, but how we manage that situation, I think, actually was a precursor to how we've handled conflict in our marriage.
yeah,
And that we didn't point fingers, we
mm-hmm.
didn't tear each other down, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh my God, we're here, it's your fault," but we actually said, "Okay, we're here. How do we support one another through this?"
Yeah,
And even though you understood it was my body and my decision, you ultimately, you you didn't say, "Well, what you gonna do?" Tell them what you said, boo.
yeah, yeah,
You remember?
yeah. Yo, you want me to tell a story?
You can tell them what. You don't have to tell the whole story, but you can. I just set you up to tell them what you said. As we were standing over the clear blue easy pregnancy
What?
awkward moment.
Wait a minute.
Uh,
What did I say? Hold on. What did I say? I'm trying to think about this.
you said, so, well, I'm paraphrasing here. I got it right in the book though.
Okay.
You said, "I know it's your choice and your decision, but I'm here for you, and
Wow.
no matter what you decide, I am here for you. So I'm willing to be a dad, and I will be here." I mean, and
Such,
you told me, you said all the right things. It was my choice. So you didn't say you're going to have this baby, or you didn't say you're not going to have this baby. You just said, "I know it's your decision. I know it's your choice, but I'm here." And
man.
that's all you needed to say, because that's
Yeah.
all I wanted to know.
Yeah. And I was, but I'm just laughing at myself because I was such a boy. And and but yes, 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 I do remember feeling that. I don't remember how I said it, but I do believe I knew I felt that way, and but I was a kid, and
Yeah.
so and this is
You
interesting.
didn't you
I
didn't
didn't know
show
what
your
that meant.
fear.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
showed confidence, and
yeah,
and so,
yeah.
but you told me you were,
Oh, I was scared out of my
panicked. Yeah.
mind. I was scared out of my mind. But I knew enough not to show it. I I was more scared of that than going to combat. And so wars end. So, but
Well,
but
that child is now 18 years
yeah,
old,
yeah, yeah.
and
It's
while
it's
and
still
you.
freaking me out. That's the dad. Shay's like, calm down. It's man, it's been the biggest. And I tell Shay, I said, I'm so glad I knocked you up. I because I couldn't have planned it out this way. I couldn't have understood this. I mean, being a father, being a husband is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And so as you're going through the process, you don't know what that commitment is, what you've but I'm glad. I'm so glad for it. But man, it is a
But let's be clear, and I think we need to clarify that it wasn't like I said, "I'm pregnant," and he said, "Okay, let's get married."
no, no, I didn't.
No, it
No,
wasn't that. I
yeah,
mean, we knew that we were still very young in this relationship,
yeah.
and we knew that we really were digging each other. I knew that I loved him. He took a little longer to figure that out.
Oh, well, this is the thing. Oh, can I?
Yeah, you
Okay,
go right
I'm on
ahead.
your show, right?
Yeah.
I when I knew you're beautiful. I knew I was into you. When we met and talked. I mean, it's easy to do, right? However, when I didn't want to be so infatuated that I didn't take the time to really say, you know, how do I love this person like that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I was still trying to learn how to
Mhm.
love. And so I think when and I probably, share too much in our conversations as I was working through this process. and I didn't have, you're trying to find the right counseling and the
Mm-hmm.
right conversations as you're trying to build your family, because now it's a new concept of thinking about your family. And I remember in that little apartment I
Mm-hmm.
had, when you were laying on in the living room with
Mm-hmm.
Koa,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw you guys, and he was so tiny, and you were laying next to him. I knew right there, there was no doubt in my mind that I loved you to the end of the earth. There was no doubt in my mind that you were my wife. I knew no doubt in my mind that I wanted to build a family, that we would grow old together. I like at that particular moment, it
Mm-hmm.
crystallized in my mind. And so I can't speak for other people. I can't tell other people what they to think or do, but that was my moment. I mean, yeah, I was attracted to you. I liked you. You were a great person. I loved you, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was committed at that
Mm-hmm.
particular moment. I knew it. There was no
Mm-hmm.
distractions at that point.
And it was really a good thing, like, because it forced us to take us, because you didn't rush in with the proposal. It forced us, and I don't even know that I would have accepted it, because I would have felt that it was just about the baby. And
Mm,
the one thing I needed to be sure of is that it wasn't just about the baby.
mm-hmm.
And so it we had to pivot, and we did. We figured out how to, we used to just jump in the car and drive to Montreal, and jump in, like, drop of a
Yeah,
hat, right?
yeah,
Jump in the
yeah,
car
yeah,
and drive to, Connecticut, and just do stuff. So we couldn't, like, so our dating changed, but, you still kept your apartment, I kept my apartment,
yeah.
and we were dating, but we were like dating with an infant. It was, yeah, but we understood, even though my mind understood. There were times, certainly, of
Mm,
angst in my heart,
mm,
because as the more I was getting to know you, the more I was falling more deeply in love with you. And then, because everything was just so unsettled, but it was so bizarre, and it's so interesting, because I've said this to women who are sort of on this verge of, is this the one, is this not the one, and they're pondering how they feel about the man that they're dating. And I harken back to my experience and what I've heard some of my mentees say, uh, that the one indicator that I think is synonymous for us is that there was sort of this peace, or this tranquility, or this feeling that this was different, and that there was less anxiety about
mm.
where this was going to go. It was almost like this internal knowing that this is going to go someplace real and significant, and I have peace about it that I can't really explain or describe. And and I mean, in the most tumultuous of circumstances, my parents, we had to shield each other from each other's
Yeah,
families, because
yeah,
my family was like, okay,
yeah,
you're pregnant, what, so what, are
yeah,
you
yeah,
getting married? I'm like, well, I don't know. Or, that hasn't come up. What do you mean it hasn't come up?
yeah.
And then your family was like, who is she?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we had to shield each other. And that was the other thing that I think that, if I were to talk about, if I were writing a book, and maybe this is the next book, because people keep asking me when's the next book, but that remedy in marriage, we've always shielded each other
Yeah.
from any outside influence that would come in and stir up the pot toward negativity.
And sometimes the people or things that stir up the negativity, they don't hate you. They're not
Right.
trying to hurt you.
Mm-mm.
They're just they're working in the system that they're in, or their belief system that they're in. And sometimes that's not the best thing for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really good to have your foundation, whatever it is, however you can find that foundational core, because sometimes the things closest to you will challenge you on your commitment to building your family, building your marriage. And you have to be strong. You have to be
Yeah.
strong
Mm-hmm.
with family, with friends, with community, all
Mm-hmm.
those things. You have to know what you want
Mm-hmm.
and stick to it.
That's why love is not just with the heart, it's with the mind,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Because that is mental toughness. That
yeah,
is
yeah.
that's why love is a decision, and that's why we talk about intentionality about in our love and marriage relationship. We have to be intentional about what we let in terms of whose advice we take. We're really
Yes,
careful about that. So
yes.
ladies, if you've got a bunch of single girlfriends giving you marital advice, stop right there. Find a woman who's been successfully married and have her speak into your life.
Same.
Or find a woman who's been divorced and who's willing to be open and honest about where she might have erred, and talk about her part, not just what he did, but what she contributed. They can sometimes also give you good advice on what not to do.
Same with men. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, really, you wanna you wanna surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're into music, you want to be around musicians.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be anything, if you want to be in finance, you be around bankers. Don't be around musicians. So it's not going to work. So you want to be around people. If you are caring about building a marriage or building a family, try to. It doesn't mean that you don't love people. It doesn't mean that you don't care for people. But try to surround yourself around people who support that, because there's a lot of things you don't need to learn by experience. You
Right.
need to learn through
Right.
looking
You
at.
can learn from the experience of others.
Yeah.
And to be clear, we're not saying, just going back to the example, we're not saying you can't be a banker with friends who are musicians, but you don't want your musician friends giving you financial advice. So
And vice
that's
versa. You don't want your bankers trying to play
you
in your
don't want your
band.
bankers, like, you don't want them grabbing the sax. No, you don't. You don't want that. So
Yeah, yeah. There might be some banker out there who can jam.
I
I don't
know,
know,
right?
but
There
but
may be,
but
but
but the
yeah.
point is, you want to surround yourself with people who support the things that you're moving towards,
Right.
and you want to do.
Mm.
And I think that's probably why people are looking at your book. I think that's probably why people are watching this podcast.
Mm.
Is because they want to be better. They don't
Right,
have to be perfect.
right. No matter what it is, no matter what the takeaways are. I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things on this journey to better, and this happens to be the last segment. And this segment, we're talking about love relationships and
Yeah.
and on the journey to better. So really, that's what today is about for those who are aspiring towards a committed relationship that will lead to marriage, those that are aspiring toward marriage or on the verge of marriage right now, or those who are in marriage and everything is going great and you just want some confirmation, or those who are in marriage and things aren't going so great. And that's when we get back to the decision piece, right? I use it as an example, like forgiveness is also a decision. When someone you love hurts you and comes to you and says, I'm sorry, and if they deeply wounded you, even if you say, I forgive you, in that moment you won't feel like everything just doesn't fade away. What they did, it doesn't fade away, but you made a decision, and later the feelings will follow. And I will never forget one great piece of advice that I received years ago. Was a person told me about the 80-20 rule. Do you know the 80-20 rule?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
tell the audience what the 80-20 rule.
So the 80-20 rule is that a lot of times the person will have someone or have a situation where it provides 80% of what they want or need,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll be concentrating on that 20% that they don't get,
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to sacrifice that whole 80 in
Mm-hmm.
search of this 20%.
Right. So you have, in practical terms, you may have a spouse who is, had your back through graduate school, comes home every night, pays the bills on time. But maybe he's not charming and romantic and buying you flowers, and that's the 20% that you don't have, and you've given every kind of hint, and you've
Mm,
nagged him to death about these flowers that you want regularly,
yeah, yeah.
and nothing seems to be making any change. That this He's still not bringing you these flowers, and this is just an example. So you up and you leave him because you want romance.
Yeah,
So you go out and you find your 20% guy
yeah.
who's giving you all the romance in the world. But when you mention going back to school, when you
Yeah.
mention, hey, the bills are in, can you
Mm,
give me a hand with this? It's not what I'm about, but I can bring you some flowers. So that's a hypothetical and it's a simplistic example, but it really is that you see a lot of people who leave their marriages or their relationships in pursuit of 20%.
It starts with respect.
Mm.
It starts with respect. I think that being able to share your feelings, being able to share your thoughts, but doing it in a space of respect
Mm-hmm.
can allow for space for love. And I
Mm.
think that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people don't respect each other, whether they're together or away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if there's this 20% that you're not getting from someone, but you need to share it with other people who don't in a way that's disrespectful to your spouse,
Mm-hmm.
and they're vibing on that,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of creates this experience where now you're not showing your spouse that respect at home,
Mm-hmm.
and it's snowballing, it's building on itself,
Mm-hmm.
snowballing. So I think that respecting each other is so important. I know it's like something that is like a lost art in today's society, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you see people not respecting each other in so many different realms,
Mm-hmm.
and even people who are quote unquote in authority are not to be respected now. Like it's so
Mm-hmm.
anti any of those things. But what it does is it creates this environment where there's this instability, there's this environment where people compromise themselves and then they become prey for other things because the structure isn't there.
Mm. So what we don't want is for you to become prey. So we are
To the guy with the
just
flowers.
to the guy with the flowers, right, right, right. Just continue to evolve.
Yeah.
There are things that I know that we were sort of surprised that things we never thought we'd get from each other because we, badgered each other about them for years, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
all of a sudden, as we mature and we
Yeah.
grow, we start to see those things started to take shape.
Yeah.
But we didn't give up. If we would have said, "This is never going to happen,"
Yeah.
you know, um, we wouldn't be here.
That's true.
And here is the most wonderful place in the world, you
It's
know, but I'm biased.
right.
So, your homework for the week. We're on this journey to better, and better is so important. Remember, we're not aiming for perfection. We do not have a perfect marriage. We'll be the first to tell you. This man has stuck by me through so much. He's helped me when I buried my mother in times of grief and despair and trauma. He's been by my side through my struggles and battles with alcoholism and addiction. And I've been by his side through some
Yeah.
crazy stuff too.
Vice versa. Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
right. But yet and still through it all, we decided to keep our family together.
Yeah.
We decided to stick around till the love came back.
Yeah.
And we decided to forgive one another. And then the feelings of forgiveness came back around. And
And I know this is a little bit out of order, but before
no.
you even met me, you
Mm-hmm.
decided on choosing love and family. So
Wow.
that happened before you met me.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I'm at a point in my life where I can see that,
Yeah.
but you you chose that before you met me.
That's true.
So
Thank
you
you.
already you were ready to be a wife before we met.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
all everything, so if I can look back over time,
Mm-hmm.
your maturity in that space
Mm-hmm.
about what it is to be a wife, really not in some superficial way, you were already working on that. So that's it made things work. So I
Thank
don't.
you. You just plugged the first 5 chapters in my book of Better Not Perfect because it really was about the journey toward better. And part of the journey toward better was how I could be a better person and learn to love myself so that I could love someone
Mm,
else. So that's where I had to, again, and I say this in every episode because it really is what Better Not Perfect is about. I had to learn myself, love myself so that I could be myself unapologetically. And there was that piece of being a wife that I knew I wanted,
mm,
but I couldn't love someone else until I learned to love me first.
wow.
So, and that came with the decision. You
Mm,
mentioned the deciding factor. So there was a time when I had to make a decision. Was I going to give up and believe that a good man wasn't out there and that love wasn't out there? Or was I going to keep my heart open and be
mm.
receptive? And so there within made all the difference.
And that's what attracted me to you. Oh my gosh, like I'm sorry we going over, but
No, that's
that's what attracted me. Now that I'm thinking about it,
fine.
and, I mean, really, that's what attracted me to you. I mean, yeah, you're pretty, you got a great smile, you're witty, and all that stuff.
Thank
But
you.
really, it was, and you always say, I'm attracted to your. I was attracted to your heart, and
Oh,
that piece. So,
thank you.
wow.
He's got me blushing. All right.
So,
So we're going to end on that. But before we do, we always strive toward better. So one of the things I want you to think about are in the 80-20 series of life, if you have a partner that is maybe a relationship or maybe even a marriage, what is your 80 and what is your 20?
mm,
And start to think about that a little bit more and assess where you are. Take your temperature and think about love as a decision. Think about where you find happiness within your space with your partner and individually. And I encourage you all, always, I'm all about counseling, I'm all about therapy, I'm all about whatever you need. If you can't get couples right now, because that may be a big ask from your partner, um, work with individual, work with individual therapy or counseling, and and then just stay committed and keep at it, and you will find that better is on the way.
mm.
So thank you for tuning in again. And I look forward to seeing you next week. If you want to view some previous podcasts, you can go to my website, www.drshaibutler.com. That's www.drshaibutler.com. And there you'll find my social media handles. Follow us. Definitely click like on the videos, subscribe to the page. Just stay connected. We want you to stay connected. There's more to share. And thank you to my guest. And you are amazing. And I appreciate having you as my life partner.
Thank you for having me. And I didn't know you were so good at this. Wow.
Things you find out about your
Yeah.
spouse.
Yeah.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone. See
Take
you
care.
next
Bye bye.
week. Bye bye.